I want to say thank you to you guys for opting into this thing. Okay, so what we're doing right now is it is a totally new category. One of the crazy things, we feel sort of like Steve Jobs holding an iPhone, and everybody's got a BlackBerry, and there's like why would they think that they need this thing that you have? They talk about when they're building the MacBook, when they're building the computer, and they're like, how would people even know that they need a computer if they've never seen one before, right? And so we've got some really cool things that we're trying to do and share that we know are powerful. If you know, you know. We got a bunch of pro coaches in our program right now, and the more we share with them, the more that kind of comes out. Everybody just says, man, you don't know till you know. And if you don't know, then you don't know, right? And so it's kind of funny how that works. So I just want to say, hey, I really appreciate you guys being here with this. What we're trying to do right now is we really want to hijack this kind of coach's journey, right? All the pain points and suffering and kind of the hard things challenges that we've had in our own program. We've, been deep down the rabbit hole exploring and learning and everything else. And so we're using this stuff in our own program, but we want to share that with others and encourage others, whether you go do this work on your own or you say, hey, I want to be a part of what's going on, and hijack all that time, right? Say, get your time back. If you want to be a part of what we're doing, we would love to have you have you plug into what's going on. But more than anything, we just want to kind of encourage you, share some value, and help coaches not feel crazy. All the time I feel like I'm going crazy, and I find that other coaches do too when we have those conversations at tournaments and everything else. So wherever you're at in the country, we want to help you. And I'm sure we'll have many reach out wanting this recording when it's all said and done. I'm going to jump out here on the mat. I've got my man MJ is on the camera today. He's our media guy. He's the reason that anything that we do looks cool. He made all this awesome stuff or whatever too. So big thanks to MJ. Thank him in advance. We're going to try to crush as much of this as we can. We narrowed this down to 5 of the main challenges that we think coaches are having. We sat here about 2 weeks ago and filmed a webinar that we were just going to give to coaches for free. And it was an hour and a half, and it did address all the problems, but we didn't think it had any value. And it was just like, yeah, okay, so you told me there's all these issues, but what next, right? And so I don't just want to make you conscious of all your problems and talk about your problems. I do want to acknowledge and kind of validate some of those things, but I want to point or lend the idea that there are some solutions and maybe some things you can do on your own. It's going to be really hard to dive into what all that is, but I'm going to get as much as we can done. And last thing I'll say is, man, I would love for this to be interactive. When I get out there, I can't, I can see you guys, but I can't hear what y'all are saying. And so while we're doing this on our shoestring budget, if you got something, like, just drop it in the chat, man. I would love to get some feedback. I can see what y'all say in the chat, and we can answer some questions and do this a little interactive. So appreciate you guys. Y'all are awesome. Let's jump out here on the mat and rock and roll, y'all. Okay, so we got 5 coaching problems. Okay, so the first one that we've really we put this first for a reason is work-family balance. Okay, this is something that I think all men struggle with. In Genesis, it says that the original curse that we got was that we would love to work and we would struggle to scratch a living from the earth. Okay, so we definitely like working. And finding that balance is a thing, okay? We try not to use the word balance. We're big believers in rhythm, right? I think balance is a myth. It's never going to be totally even, but that rhythm, okay? And so for me, this comes from a place where I believe that I have some really strong beliefs about wrestling in particular, okay? I believe that wrestling is a halfway step to faith, to church. I think that it's a proving ground. It's like a playground for you to hone and learn about your faith, okay? And all of the adversity, I talked with another coach, we call it manufactured adversity all the time, okay? And that there's not any real consequences, okay? And so when you're a kid, especially a lot of the kids that we have, that are privileged or whatever else, it's a manufactured place for them. If they're privileged, if they're underprivileged, then it's a place where we can empower them and help show them a way out of kind of where they're at. I have really strong beliefs about wrestling, obviously, okay? And I'm guessing that you do too. What is your reason that you coach? It's obviously not for money. There's a lot better ways to make money. If you have these strong beliefs about wrestling or about the sport, okay, and then you also have strong convictions about family, okay, and prioritizing your wife and your kids and your family, I think we all have that, okay. So if you have these two convictions that you're really powerful forces in your life, how you balance those things can be really challenging, okay? And so there's like some fears that I know I've struggled with a lot, and maybe you identify with one of these. I have a real fear of, so like let's say at the end of practice, so we're in here, we're in our mat room right now, we get done with practice and some kid comes up and has a question. I know my wife is waiting on me at home to like come home, eat dinner, been going all day, okay? But an athlete on my team comes up and says, it has a question, hey coach, can I ask you a question about this technique? Right then, like, this is the moment that I've wanted. I want that kid to want more help, and I want to help him. But in that moment, I have to choose between, do I help this athlete, right, or do I go home, okay? And I'll be honest, I don't know if everyone's is exactly like that, but I have that. I mean, every single day that happens in my life. So I have a couple of fears that immediately spark up. One is perceived buy-in. If I'm not around, if I'm not there in person, if I'm not giving my time and visible in front of everybody, there's a perceived buy-in to my team, okay? And so I have a fear that they won't think that I'm bought in, and so they're not going to be bought in, right? So that's kind of the first place. The next fear is on the other end is the perceived priority by my spouse, right? That's like a huge issue, okay? And I tend to think like I'm a task person. People are either like task or time people usually. I'm a task person, okay? So I think that I'm like, hey, we're standing in the kitchen, the oven's hot, like this is the moment that I really feel led to. And so I'm like, hey, let's just finish cooking this while we're standing here. Let's not leave and come back and have to redo this whole thing, okay? So while the oven's hot and we're standing in the kitchen, let's get this thing done. I'm definitely not a time person, and that's a struggle, okay? And so there's also some other places that, like, if I don't help this kid, or if I don't spend more time, or if I don't spend more effort, there could be other fears that kind of arise. There could be like a fear of failure, like, hey, if we don't get this thing done, we got to go a little over. We got to get this work done, because if we don't, then we're not going to have the success we need to at this tournament, right? Another could be in like college and yeah, at the NCAA level, there can be a lot of fear that comes from like boosters or admin pressure, right? They're like, hey, you got to have this success, or we're going to find the next person. Okay, there's definitely the business of college wrestling. At a club or a high school, I think there can be a lot of parent pressure, right? And so there's parent pressures of parent expectations or other people's expectations on how you should perform. And you're like, if we don't get this done, I've got some fear of what's going to happen, right? So if you know if one of those stands out to you, hopefully you're thinking of it right now, you're like, yeah, that's real. All of these, I got having spades, dealt with all of them, okay? There's a really, I'll just share this real quick. So Coach Bill Clark, we're here in Birmingham. Coach Bill Clark at UAB, he was the head coach at UAB when they dropped the program. He stayed through that down window and then brought it back, and then they had crazy success, okay? He actually stepped down, and now Trent Dilfer's the head coach, and we've had some awesome opportunity to interact and be around those programs and those leaders. Both amazing men. Just really, really awesome. But Coach Bill Clark, I saw him at a wedding one time, and it was a UAB wedding. Like, I think one of the other athletic directors was getting married, and so everybody there's a UAB person. Coach Bill Clark is like, the president walking around in there, and so everybody wanted to chat with him. And I got his ear for a second. I said, Coach, I got to imagine, like, you're here right now, and everybody here wants your attention. Everybody wants you to be present and talk to them, and they're all looking for, there's just like a line of people to talk to them. And I said, but if I had to bet, you're a coach, and like your mind is probably somewhere else. You're not actually present in this room. I bet your mind is in the office. You're thinking about your linebackers or your DBs or what's got to fix with your staff or your quarterbacks or something, right? And he instantly, he talked to 500 people, stopped, like we separated and we went over and had like a 30-minute conversation, he and I, and it was just really, really incredible. But it was so interesting because I was seeking like answers, like how do you deal with that? Like that was the real question I got to, is like how do you do that? How do you deal with it? And we had a great conversation related to it. But what I really realized is all coaches deal with this, right? And I think the higher level you are, maybe the more external pressure there can be. And so those things are super real, okay? Again, I think we're probably all conscious of this, but this one could permeate everywhere else, okay? And so a couple of methods, solutions. One thing is we talk about the other 22. This is a crazy, crazy deep idea that we're going to lean into. We're going to talk a lot more later in the call, okay? We also start with why. We have a goal thing that we use with our athletes, okay, not in like the classic way that write down your goals. We really do a guided instruction. We're probably going to run a call like this next week with athletes, but we do a guided instruction. We've done this with all of our own team. Every single person, we help them identify their goals. We start with why they want that, and take them all the way through this step and help them figure out not just what they want to do, but why they want to do it, and then who they want to become. And then we create an action plan forward on like the things that they need to do, the things they need to stop doing. It's really detailed. It is awesome. It's crazy important. Got to have it, okay? So this is a resource that we use inside Methods, okay? We talk a lot about moving to Mexico. That's kind of this idea of the other 22. How can we immerse them in the right stuff? How do we immerse them? If you want to learn Spanish, the best way to do it is to move to Mexico. It's not to get Duolingo. It's not taking a Spanish class. You got to immerse yourself in that, right? And so we as coaches and leaders should be spending time figuring out how can we immerse them, not just in wrestling, but in access to the right things, really deliberately, really intentionally inside of wrestling. Really, again, big ideas with the other 22, but it goes outside of that too. We talk about, again, just theoretically in this, okay, the goal would be is that we should teach them how to fish, not give them fish, right? And so there's an old lesson that says if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And so we're talking about how to do those things. And we want to be an example of healthy rhythm, okay? When I think about work-family balance, there's a couple of coaches that stand out in my mind. A lot of times I see coaches and I see guys who just literally don't care. That's no one on this call. I'm preaching to the choir here. You guys are obviously taking next steps just to opt into this. This is not like every single coach in America needs these things, but they're not all opting in. They're not all seeking answers. So there's a lot of coaches that don't care or that they don't know that there's a better way. There's some other coaches, there's two guys in particular that I'm thinking of right now in my mind that they're just like not going to get it out of whack. And really there's a lot, but there's two coaches in particular that I know locally. They're great coaches, great men. I've had a lot of chance to be around them. And I always wondered, like, man, they're such good coaches. Like, how come they don't do, like, they're not doing more? I just didn't understand. And they had the wisdom that, like, hey, I'm not going to mess up the priorities of my family and these things, right? And so they had, I'll use the word balance, okay? And the thing that I know that I struggle with is I was kind of unwilling to accept what was the status quo, like in our community or in our culture here in Alabama. And so it's always led to me putting forth more effort, more time, all those things, and giving more, because I was trying to 2X what we're doing, and ultimately, like, that wasn't scalable or sustainable, right? And so that's really led to a lot of the development of the stuff that we're talking about here on this call today, okay? Again, I'm really just touching on some topics. I really would like to lean really far into that, but hopefully you're tackling these solutions with your team. By the way, we're gonna catch this as a recording, and if you're on this call, I'm gonna give it back to you. Try to take some notes, ask questions. I want to get some questions from you guys at the end, but we'll get this back to you as well, because I know I'm talking fast and covering a lot of things. Okay, so second is the dilemma of time with your athletes. Okay, so I want to talk about every program in America has got 5 levels of athletes on your team. We're going to talk about what that looks like. If you think you know what the 5 are, guess what you think the 5. Like if you could define your team in 5 levels, like what would you call them? I'm really interested what y'all would say about this topic before I get going. You got 30 seconds, so dump them in there, okay? Boom, boom, boom. I'm looking. Anybody got any 5 levels? Maybe you think there's less than that or more than that, okay? Okay, I'm just gonna do this. Whoop, okay. I'm gonna draw a triangle, pyramid. You guys are gonna find out that I'm a nerd about triangles and pyramids pretty quick, okay? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, boom. Okay, so here's 4. All right, I'm gonna start with these. Okay, so the first group you've got on your team are your starters. All right, this is your top of the pyramid, right? There's your, pardon my handwriting, but this is your first group on the team. Okay, so you got your starters. Next, you've got backups, right? This might be like the travel squad, right? If you're a college team or I assume it's your 10 starters, maybe plus 3 or 4 guys that fill in. Okay, like could all be the same group. Maybe you've got a whole JV team that you're thinking behind that, that's like the A team, B team. Depending on the size of your program, the way you define exactly how many kids are in this group could vary, okay? But it's gonna look like that. The next one is your development team. These are guys that, hey, you're the future, it's gonna take a little time. You're not ready to contribute right now. You got some work to put in. Maybe you're a sophomore, okay? Redshirt freshman in college, whatever. Like you're in the development team. You're on a redshirt year, so somewhere about that sophomore year. You're like, you're second level, okay? And then at the bottom we've got beginners. This is beginners, and could be beginner in that you're brand new to the sport. Could be beginner in that you're new to our program, okay? So this is your 4. But what we haven't talked about is up here at the top, there's actually the tip of the spear is your leaders. Leaders, right? So this is actually the 5th level of your team, okay? And so here's what happens is when we're talking about our program, this is the identity of your team. Like these are the guys that represent you. You're gonna send your college, your 10 starters, high school, your 14 starters out there. And this is everybody sees this part of your team, okay? These people have got to be ready to fill in at any point if a guy goes down, injury, sickness, whatever, we need somebody. They've got to be able to fill in. So these people are really important. This is your future, okay? You got to be investing in these people because they're the future of your program. And if you just focus on these, then it's a short-term approach versus a long-term approach. And the beginners are the biggest tax on your time and your resources. The beginners, this is where this is huge, okay? So during COVID, I got to study, I was on a research team doing a lot of research and study about businesses and corporate wellness programs, which I don't recommend being a dork and doing a deep dive on. But in business, there's a $100 billion industry of wellness programs, right? So when we say wellness programs, we tend to think about like your insurance packages and your benefits and that kind of stuff at your workplace. But workplace wellness is actually about what they figured out is that new people in the company are the biggest cost because they make mistakes. They're where all the problems come from. All the like oh, red alert, all the big things happen here, okay? And they make the most mistakes, right? And so you have to spend time investing in them to move them up. But if you're invested in them, you're not here. And this whole idea, as I started to understand it, really, really, really represents the dilemma of time inside your program, okay? If you're walking around the room as a coach, I wrote down a couple notes. Like when you're walking around and you see these people or something, you're like, oh my gosh, I've thought to myself, and I hate to admit this, but I'll look at someone and go, I need you to get better so I can like literally justify spending my time with you. Like, holy crap, right? Or they do something, I'm like, I can't even begin to like comment on that, or I don't even know what to say, right? If you know what I'm talking about, give me a thumbs up. You're like, hey, yeah, that's real. I've had that moment as a coach, okay? I tend to think that a lot of the issues, in this, there's different skill levels. We're going to talk about that in a second, but like where, it's just hard. You've got to wear so many hats at once. If you're a college football team or a football staff, like you deal with one position. You're the quarterback's coach, right? You're the offensive coordinator. You're the defensive coordinator. You're the D line. You're the whatever, right? You're covering the D ends or the running backs coach. It's very positional. It's very isolated, and the staff is huge. Wrestling's not like that. Okay, so we got all these issues. I tend to think about this. A lot of the issues that we have, I wrote down stuff like making weight or cutting weight. Those are examples of like these new people that are really costly. Like a kid drinking, there's dumb stuff. Depending on your program and where you're at, maybe your example would be different. But an example that immediately comes to mind are things like making weight or cutting weight, where a kid doesn't have access to the right information. So corporate wellness programs are about giving people access to the information, and it's insane. Like for every dollar they invest, they get like $3 to $4 back in ROI. So it's a business, they track and measure everything. But they've proven, case study, hey, we've got to have some access to online resources and training and doing some things that scale us so that the leader isn't walking up and down the ladder teaching everybody, that there's ways to educate these people so we can build a culture, okay? Peter Drucker says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. There's two of my favorite quotes. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Massive, massive, massive thing. Peter Drucker is like the godfather of modern business, okay? And then the second one is, and so that's macro, like huge, big scale, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And then the other quote that I really love is micro. It's Marcus Aurelius, and he says, the secret to all victory lies in organization of the non-obvious, okay? Sun Tzu says that the battle is won before it is ever fought, okay? So those 2-3 quotes are really powerful. This is what's up. This is what your team looks like. And so once you understand the different levels and you name them, then you can start to tame them, okay? In terms of giving people this information, this is a battle that you're always going to fight. And so we use the parable of a water bottle, okay? When you got bad culture or problems, technique, whatever thing you want to apply this to, no amount of fighting, squeezing, no amount of effort is gonna really get the job done, right? So if you take a water bottle and you want to get all the air out, let's say that there's air in a water bottle and you want it out, and you squeeze and twist and fight with it and wind it up all the way down to almost nothing, there's still a little air left in the thing, okay? It's frustrating, again, time, effort, all the things, okay? But you still don't get it out. No amount of squeezing and pressuring on people is gonna get it done. But if you just take the right thing and put it inside, all the air leaves, right? You take that same bottle, take the cap off, fill it up with water, and all the air is gone. And it's so much more gentle, right? And so that's kind of the idea, is by putting the right things in, we can really make powerful changes in our culture, and really the ultimate success of our program as a whole, okay? And there's a much more gentle way to go about that, okay? So dilemma of time with our athletes, massive, massive, massive thing. Next I want to talk about scaling technique to the different levels in your room. How many people know there's a bunch of different levels, right? We didn't talk about 5 levels, but you're thinking about Jimmy and Johnny in your room, and you're like, Johnny can't walk and chew gum. Jimmy's trying to win Fargo, right? Timmy is brand new. We're glad that he's at practice today. Glad to have you, Timmy. Timmy's personality is great. You're glad to have him on the team because he's the fun guy, okay? But, Tony over here is trying to win a state title and wrestle in college. And those guys have to practice right beside each other, okay? Big guys, small guys, everywhere in between. And so scaling the technique to everybody in the room can really be frustrating. A lot of people, you take the heavyweight and just kind of shove them off to the side and, okay, yeah, there's the big boys. And then the 106-pounder in high school, he gets kind of pushed off the other side, and then you coach the 80% in the middle, right? Kind of how it works. All right, so instead, we're gonna talk about doing that in some different ways, okay? Okay, so such a wide range of skill levels in the room. How do you address the needs of your novice athletes without neglecting your best athletes, or vice versa, right? This is a serious thing, okay? Coaches talk to me about this all the time. I'm just gonna, you have a range of athletes, they've got different skills, experiences. So your athletes and your coaches really, right? You got some other coaches, they all have a range of a range of skills, experiences, and wrestling IQ in the room. We use the Ironclad formula, okay? This is a great way to do this, okay? And so the way that we do it is we scale stuff, right? So let's say, we taught a class on this last week, but let's say that I wrote single leg, double leg, and snap down or front headlock in here, okay? We're gonna move really quick through this, okay? We would say, all right, hey, go hit your single leg. If you say, all right, we're gonna work on single legs. New guys are just working on hitting their single leg, okay? That's first level. Second level would be, I'm gonna try to snap you down, and then when you defend the snap down, then I'll single leg. So this is first level, and then if I go snap down to single leg, we say that is second level. That's a secondary attack, okay? I'm gonna touch your head and then tap and go. I mean actually move you, try to snap you down, and then fire off my single leg once you defend the snap down, okay? So that becomes secondary, okay? Third level or tertiary would be, I try to double leg you and you don't let me, and then I try to snap you down and you don't let me, and then I follow up with a single leg, okay? And so we say, until you're at the second level, you're not even trying yet. You're not even trying if you're not doing something at the second level. Good wrestling begins at the third level, okay? My high school coach was a boxer, and he used to always say, combinations, combinations, combinations. Everybody loves to use the term chain wrestling, but we've got to have a way. It's not about is that the answer? It's how do we teach it? You need a constructive way to teach that thing, right? Everybody here knows how to do math, but there's a whole there's a class that teaches us how to learn to do math, right? So we have to have some structure that teaches us how to do combinations, okay? It's a huge thing. So we use technique that plugs and plays and all sorts of things. We can upgrade technique. I would love to dork out and talk technique with you forever. That's really not the focus of today's call. We crazy deep dive on that, okay? But we can upgrade your technique and all this stuff so that it's plug and play. And we use the metaphor of using like a multi-tool, like instead of having 11 different screwdrivers, you can have a 11-in-1 screwdriver, right? We can upgrade your tools, and so you get to carry one tool that works in a whole bunch of places. We can so upgrade your technique, and not to bash anything you're doing. I'm sure, but there's upgrades in all this stuff that we could talk about forever, okay? So we use the Ironclad formula to scale to different levels of attacks. We also use this to map position. So, hey, we're working on single leg, okay? Let's say we're doing I'm just gonna say meat hooks. Hey, we're working on meat hooks today, right? Today we're working on meat hooks. Well, I'll say, hey, go out, get on meat hooks. Let's start working, okay? I can have them. We can map and figure out where people don't have answers, okay? Like last week on our call, I talked a whole lot about on a single leg. So 2 is 1, 1 is none. You have to have two of everything, okay? So like when I learn meat hooks, I've got to have two attacks or I don't have anything. When I get to single leg, I've got to have 2 finishes or I don't have anything. And so like we had like a finish on the mat and a finish high, first and second. But for up until a few years ago, I didn't have a great third finish over here, right? And so, but I figured out this knowledge gap that I had a gap in my thing. I had wrestled all through middle school, high school, college, couple time All-American, had a lot of success, still didn't have one of these somehow. 10,000 hours in, did not have a third thing. And I figured that out on paper, not in a practice or being taught. The last thing that we use, a good solution, is progressions. You gotta have progressions, okay? Because your athletes have a range of skills, right? And physical abilities, limitations, mobility, body types, all those things. So having progressions of that stuff, right? We use technique cards and focus on what is the purest version, what is the bullseye, and then we can have progressions or iterations of that technique. And so understanding this is a really, really, really big idea. You gotta understand, you can't use a one-size-fits-all technique. It's just not gonna work. You gotta have and be able to understand progressions in order to coach everybody in the room. And if you don't do this, like I guess you could not do it, but you're not, we're not doing our best job in serving everybody in our room, and they're not gonna have the success that they should either, okay? And so that's a big deal, okay? Are you guys with this? Are y'all getting some value out of this here? Hopefully you guys I'm not just going, hey, you have all these problems and this is it. I really hope this is some value. This is just how we do it, okay? I'm not saying that there's not a better way. I just have never even heard anyone talk about a better way. I haven't even been a part of that discussion. Usually when I go talk to someone, okay, including when I go to the Olympic Training Center, like when I talk to the brightest minds in wrestling, they're too busy doing and so they don't have time to step back and think. And I think that's I know that's a huge outlier and why we're the people doing and talking about this, because we live in Alabama and the level of wrestling isn't that high. So there's a whole lot of time for exploring, and we're just sourcing solutions to these problems, okay? I think if you spent 10,000 hours studying, if you want to be a nerd, if you want to know every book I've ever read, like, man, I'll give you the list, okay? But it's a long and painful and arduous journey, okay? So if you don't want to do that, if you want to learn it on your own, man, I'll help you do that, okay? But if you want to learn with us, we're doing this all the time, okay? The next major thing is there's not enough hours in the day. So number 4 that we talked about is there's not enough hours in the day. When we talk about time, anytime I talk about time with a coach, the first thing they say is time. What time? I don't have any time, right? Like I have to wear all the hats. Like I'm the coach, and I'm the parent coordinator, and I'm the mat mopper, and I'm the counselor and the weight manager, and I mean you do everything. Okay, you coach the big guy, the little guy, everywhere in between. You have to. There's a great book called The E-Myth that talks about the entrepreneur, the manager, the technician, okay? And then really there's like a janitor below that. We talk about it. We talk about it this way. There's an 8, an 18, and an $80 an hour employee, and there's even an $800 an hour employee, okay? Or maybe there's a $180 an hour employee and an $800 hour. There's all these levels of roles, and unfortunately as a coach, we have to wear all those hats, okay? And so there's not enough hours in the day. And in doing that, because we have to wear all those hats, we become the bottleneck. We are the bottleneck in the business. Everything has to flow through us. This is good. I wasn't planning this until literally an hour ago. I want to share this with you guys. If you're going to write notes, this is worth writing down, okay? This one thing, this is really leading into communication, which I'm going to talk about some more later, but let's just talk about this bottleneck, is that there's 10 degrees of communication, 10 levels of communication, okay, or steps to this thing. And so the frustrating thing that we all feel and experience as coaches is I think really about our time, and when you take time and communication and couple those problems, there's this 10-step process. Okay, so number one is that coach knows something. This is why we like good wrestlers and we hire them to be coaches, because we're like, hey, he was pretty good, so he obviously knows the thing. So step one is coach knows. That's a huge fallacy, by the way, of coaching. They're entirely different skill sets. But the coach knows. Okay, so we hire good wrestlers to become coaches. Number two is did the coach say the thing, right? So he knows it, but did he say it? That's the second one that we have. If one of these stands out to you and you're like, oh man, I didn't know that one, like tell me. I love getting feedback from you guys on what's up. So the third thing is called presenteeism. Was the athlete present, right? If you're on a high school team, hopefully they're showing up to practice, or a college team, or you kick them off the team. In a club where it's volunteer, like they don't have to show up, right? They're paying us, not the other way around, okay? So were they even present, all right? 4 is could they hear you, okay? And so like maybe I did say this thing, but I said it in a group of guys in a private lesson, okay? Or I said it over here working one-on-one in practice with this group, and I know that I said it, but everybody else didn't hear it, okay? And so what I find is all of our frustrating pain points are that we're always communicating this thing, and our frustration tends to be that there's a gap between what we've been doing, what we've been saying, and like where they've heard it or learned it or whatever else, okay? So 4 is did they hear it or could they hear it? 5 is were they focused and listening? This is a massive filter, right? Were they focused or listening? Their attention span is doing this every day because of screen time and all that stuff, right? So were they focused and listening? That's a huge filter. 6 is could they understand? Did they understand what you were saying, okay? Like when you said it, did it make sense to them based off where they are in their journey? A huge thing is not just telling the truth, but we've got to retrace back to where our athlete is, understand and assess where they are, and then help them run the race forward, okay? So do they understand? Once they do understand it, can we get to a point that they can do it? They can physically perform that act the first time, okay? Then that's 7. 8 is can they do it consistently? Like they've got some reps at it, they've got a groove. It's not a new neural pathway, new neural connection. They're starting to sand a groove and myelinate those skills, and they can do it consistently, okay? Number 9 is can they teach it to someone else? Can they teach it to another athlete or to the group? Huge, huge, huge deal. And then number 10, literally, is can they execute it? Can they execute that skill in a match, under pressure, stress, whatever else, those external things? And can they do it against someone confidently, efficiently, effectively at their same skill level or above, right? So maybe I can do it to a high school kid, but can I do it to someone else who's my age, size, whatever else, wrestling in college? Like, ooh, I don't know. That's a little different, okay? And so a couple references, great book, Gapology. Great book, Checklist Manifesto, okay? And then the $100 billion industry of workplace wellness, massive references for all kinds of insights about this stuff, okay? Another dilemma that we're talking about is like, hey, what do I work on today, right? And so there's not enough hours, what do I work on today? Most people are learning, if this is you, be man enough to admit this right now, okay? And I'll say this because I do this when I was myself. Most people are learning based off of what an algorithm tells them, okay? So like you catch some inspiration off Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, maybe you follow Ironclad Wrestling, that's probably how you found us, okay? And so whatever they show or taught, you take that to practice and do it today, okay? There's no real, like, we need a process. We need something that helps us understand what to do and make some decisions about what our athletes need today. This is a thing that requires a lot of our time and mental energy and that sort of stuff, okay? It's just funny though, because everybody's learning the same stuff at once because they saw, I'm like, I see coaches sharing something like, hey, I got this gold nugget, and they show me, I'm like, hey, you saw that video too? Like, yeah, I saw that, such and such, and they're like, oh yeah, that is where I learned it, right? Or the same video, like when Flo posts something, okay, they post a new documentary or the new video with Vito or whatever's going on, and everybody's absorbing that thing at once. Everybody in America is practicing that thing on the same day, okay? An interesting historical thing is that basketball, the change, the revolution that wrestling's going through right now, okay? Because the wrestling is definitely improving. High school kids are beating NCAA champs and world team members, okay? Like it's getting better. But that change, that revolution that we're going through right now is about exposure to the thing, okay? And so basketball went through this same change when they started putting basketball games on TV in the 70s. In the 70s, okay? It's 2024. And so a lot of those things have already happened. They happen in other sports. And if you can timeline it, you can see what's going on. Couple method solutions, all right? So our big thing is the other 22, okay? The other 22 is an idea that comes from Dr. Mark Bubbs in a book called Peak, okay? That's where I first had the inspiration for this idea. He says, everyone's obsessing about 2 hours a day, but it's the other 22 hours a day where you really get better, okay? So that's kind of where we talk about the idea of moving to Mexico. My wife is from Colombia. She speaks Spanish, or you know, English too, right? But I'm trying to learn Spanish, and learning Spanish here, I'm really good at a Mexican restaurant. I can order everything, okay? I'm good there. But having those deeper, expansive conversations, it's just really hard to learn that on an app, isolated, whatever else, okay? And so, but when I moved to Mexico, when we go out of the country, I learned so much Spanish in a short amount of time, okay? And so that idea of move to Mexico, that's the best way to do it. How can we get our athletes to fall in love with this learning process where they can become students of the game, where they can not just learn what an algorithm is showing them or whatever video they saw on TikTok, and they come in and try in your practice and you're like, what are you doing? They can learn things that fit together in a system, right? Alabama has a great football team. Auburn has a great football team. They don't, like, the plays don't interchange, right? Like, the quarterback can't leave Auburn and go to Alabama and it work overnight. It doesn't work. There's a system, okay? It's not about the techniques or the moves or the whatever else themselves. It's about the relationship between them. All the magic happens in that relationship in between. And so we want to help get them not just to Mexico. We want to immerse them in this idea in that other 22 hours so they can learn when they're ready, okay? We also are able, it allows us to do all kinds of stuff. So by having a library of resources and training where they can study a position that they want to learn. Hey, you want to learn how to ride legs? Here's a course on how to do it. You want to learn how to defend legs? Here's a course how to do it. You want to stop giving up takedowns? Here's a course on how to do it. You want to get better on top? Here's a course how to do it. They can study on their own, right? But whether it's because that they're interested in or something that they know that they need, they can do those things, right? So we give them access to that stuff. And then better yet, another amazingly powerful tool in this is that if coach is learning this system, okay, and then we also get the athletes access, like the whole team has access, right? Everybody in Ironclad has access to all of our training online. We can send them videos. Hey, today we're working on gut wrenches, all right? We're working on leg laces. These are great skills right now because our kids aren't familiar with freestyle and Greco, right? So it's a great way to guinea pig that stuff. They can't pretend that they know how to do a single leg. It's like, hey, this is a leg lace that I know you don't know how to do. So we can send them the film ahead of time. Hey, today we're working on leg laces. Make sure you get this in your game. What are the 3 main ideas on this leg lace? And now they're watching this video, and when we come to practice, and I'm like, all right, we're doing leg laces, ready, spread out, 1, 2. I don't spend 5 minutes teaching. We can just put them to work, and then we can hold them accountable, okay? If you're thinking this is crazy, I understand. It seems bananas, but this is how every football team in America works, okay? There's a school down the road here, Clay Chalkville, lots of inner city school kids, lots of like assisted lunches and everything else, okay? These kids are failing. They're like barely passing English class, okay? Barely passing all their subjects, but they are students of the game in the sport. They know where to line up and what to do. They're sending them assessments and tests of, hey, on this play, what's the right read? Like, they're giving them Google tests on all these things. And if a play is not above like 97% accuracy by the whole team, if the class or the whole team's average is less than 97%, they take that play out of the playbook for Friday night because they can't afford to be on 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 and have a missed assignment that blows up the drive, right? And so that was a lot. I wouldn't plan on dumping that to you, but like, that's happening right down the road, and they were doing that 5 years ago, okay? And so the point is like, man, all the sports are doing this, but we need some tools and resources and everything to make this thing happen, okay? We want to create that feeling of getting better. That's some amazing work, literature by Cal Newport, okay? Deep work and Become So Good They Can't Ignore You. 2 amazing books. That's this idea of Move to Mexico. If your athlete feels like they're getting better, okay? If they can move from level 1 to level 2 habits in their core skills, if they can explore areas that they know they're struggling in, they can learn more, show up to practice tomorrow and beat the kid with the thing that they were losing with yesterday. Like they're going to feel themselves getting better and they're going to get addicted to that process. That's what we need. They want to feel like they're making improvement, and they need to do that without it requiring your time. That's the biggest thing is like, sure, if you spend all your time with one athlete, they're going to get better. Pretty much every team in America has a kid that's really good because the coach spends all his time with that kid. That's not what's special. Having 5 kids that are really good, that's pretty special. If you have 10 or 15 or 20 or 50 kids that are good, right? Like that's the base level in your program. That's really what's special is what is the average kid in your program, and did you develop them, right? If you just recruited them all at a prep school and moved them in and they're good, that's very different than developing these guys, which is what we should all be trying to do. Okay. Man, we use the other 22. We use this craftsman mindset, helping them feel like they're getting better. Okay. We use the Ironclad formula. We create playbooks. We give them playbooks ahead of time. So we've mapped positions like this and give it to them and say, hey, here's the base understanding for all these positions. This is a great way to do it, okay? And then we do some, like a 40,000-foot view of a match. We do some match planning. This is really powerful for, as a coach, you can be like a production guy. Elon Musk walks the floor occasionally at Tesla and figures out where the bottlenecks are and then gets rid of them, okay? This constraints-led approach. There's a book called The Goal. Really long book. It's written as a story, but it's kind of the gospel on this idea of constraints-led stuff. A lot of the modern coaching theory is all about an ecological approach, ecological dynamics, and a constraints-led approach, these 2 ideas, and we're fully embracing them. You don't have to know the fancy word or whatever. I don't care about that, but embracing these ideas is the future of coaching, and we're way down the rabbit hole already doing this. So we use some match planning stuff to help as a coach. You see, where does my team need some help? And then we also can use that tool in other ways. We've had some insane success. We had a kid beat a Fargo finalist. He was 0-5 against this kid, and through using the same protocol and doing like real visualization, not the abstract fairy tale thing that we've probably all been through together that you're like, I tried that with my team and it didn't work, okay? Or I don't like that or believe in it myself. However your feelings are on the issue, like a real practical, functional way to do some visualization. And we've had bananas results. We can teach you how to do that with your team, equip you how to do that with your team, and help your athletes do it with themselves, right? To get rid of nervousness and all that kind of stuff. Huge stuff, okay? Again, if you want help, man, we'd love to help you. But like at the very least, like, hey, now this is on my radar. Figure out which road you want to walk. Where do you want to spend some time and effort equipping yourself so you don't feel crazy as a coach for loving what you do and trying to help people, but understanding that like, hey, I need more than what I'm doing. Okay, like don't keep digging with a shovel, man. Like let's get you some equipment. Let's get you a bobcat or a tractor, an excavator to do those things with, right? Lastly is communication, okay? I'm gonna be short here. So communication is everything, okay? So Jordan Burroughs said a couple years ago, he said that he thinks that nutrition is the greatest frontier for wrestlers. He said that no one is utilizing nutrition, and he thinks that's the greatest frontier. I think that nutrition is massive, okay? By the way, we have great courses and content and stuff on nutrition. We can do a lot with that. I would love to teach you guys and talk to you about in-body testing and how to, like, how broken the weight, our weight management system is in the sport of wrestling. It's man, I want to tell you so much about it because it's just super jacked up. There's so much life-giving stuff we can help you do with that. Nutrition is a big thing. JB is not wrong. It's a good thing, okay? But I don't think that's number one. Dr. Mark Bubb says that the other 22 and assessing your athletes. He says that Dr. Mark Bubb's again, this book was written in 2022, I think, 2023, says that these are the greatest frontiers for development for every program. I personally believe that communication is the frontier, okay? I think that this is where there's the most room for improvement, and people are going to feel and appreciate that change, okay? One of the things I wrote down is people don't remember what you said, they remember how you said it and how you made them feel, okay? You know that because if you're married, you have conversation with your spouse, right? Or you've been offended before. Maybe you don't remember. I tell my wife all the time, like, I don't really remember what you said to me about it, like, but I remember feeling like such and such, right? Like this is just a true thing about communication. So one of the things that's really been powerful with us is there's a bunch of stats on communication in particular. Like let me see if I've got them right here in front of me. I had some notes on like what the retention is from different topics. It was like it's Penfold's. Man, what's the darn thing called now? We remember like tiny percentages of things. Let me see. I wrote some notes here, and I literally can't find where I wrote it in here. But there's like we remember about. You remember 5% of what you hear, 10% of what you see. You remember 20% of what you see and hear. I think you're 30% of what is you see here and it's demonstrated in front of you, okay? And then it starts to go up to these other ratios. 70% is the accepted percentage. Like you retain 70% of what you do. The challenge with doing is how do I know that you're doing the right thing? Or if you do the wrong thing, you develop bad habits, right? So I can't just send you out to do because you're gonna create all these ruts, all these bad habits in the process of just doing it, right? That's kind of the idea. People just say, oh, just go live wrestle, just go wrestle live, just go compete. You'll figure it out. You will, but there's gonna be a whole lot of pain points that come from doing that. You remember about 90% of what you teach, okay? 90%, okay? And so we're using, we use this whole idea of like a one-room classroom. It's a really, really, really deep idea where in your 5 levels of athletes, your best guys are teaching they're the first tier's teaching the second tier and on down the ladder because it reinforces those things. You have to organize your ideas. We also, in terms of communication, I don't want to be lecturing about everything. And so we use technique cards, right? So we have these huge cards that we blow up on the TV in here or blow up on the wall. And so if we're working on leg lace, like the checklist of the technique is on the board. So if I am teaching it, I can reference the board to make sure that I'm using the same, I'm not leaving something out. I'm not overlooking something, okay? So that whoever is teaching the technique today, if I'm teaching or MJ or someone else, they can teach it using the thing, right? So that's number one, is that there's not a fall off in my recollection by using a technique card. 2 is that while we're doing the thing, whether we taught it or didn't, while we have them do it, instead of the kid coming by and going, hey coach, I have a question about such and such, they can look at the board themselves, right? So they have the recipe and there's self-discovery, self-learning in the thing. And so now in them learning, they have that aha moment and it hijacks what goes on, okay? The science of learning says, we always say 10,000 reps. That's really based off the title of a chapter in Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers. That was based off the research of Dr. Erickson, who said there was between 7,000 and 17,000. That was kind of the range. One even had 23,000 hours to become a master at chess. Okay, so the average of all those numbers was 10,000 hours. That's why we say it takes 10,000 hours or 10,000 reps to be a master. If you have 991 consecutive perfect reps, okay, they learn this, we call it fighter pilot training. If there's no deviation, you do every one of them right in a row. 991, we just call it 1,000 to be simple. 1,000 reps will get you the same way as 10,000, okay? Dr. Karen Purvis is the researcher. She discovered emotional learning, okay? And so what she says, if you can have an emotional moment, you can learn something in as little as 12 reps, the same way as 10 or 20,000 reps, okay? And so that can be positive or negative, all right? So positive example of that is, hey, kid hits a big technique, takes the guy down and wins in a big match. like he was so emotionally charged, fired up, he's gonna remember that technique forever, and it's like he just logged 5,000 reps. Boom. Example of a technique card. D, yes, I'm gonna circle back to this. I'm gonna show you the technique card. A negative example of emotional learning is your heavyweight throws a headlock, or your 106 pounder throws a headlock and wins a match, or a cow catcher or whatever, and now they want to do that every single match, like the only thing they want to do, because they've learned it and they positively reinforced it, it worked, but they want to do it every time, okay? So what we do is through where we can leverage emotional learning is we have these technique cards on the board, okay? And what we'll do is like now the kids, like they can't come ask us first. We're working on the technique. I'm like, hey, check the board, right? Try to understand it yourself. If you don't know, ask your partner, right? And so we're creating communication back and forth between the kids. As you guys know, if you're coaching high schoolers, like they don't talk to each other anymore. They don't even know how to communicate. So they're communicating with one another. They together self-discover the thing, because if they can figure it out, it's so much more valuable than if I come tell it to them, right? You coming and giving them the answer is like training wheels. You're, in a way, you could almost say you're handicapping your athletes by helping them and teaching them all the time, okay? And so by helping them, it's a huge deal. The next major thing with it was with our coaches is if the information is on the board, okay, I don't have to spend so much time and effort and brain power focusing on what to say. I can focus on how I say it and who I say it to. I'm gonna say this again, because this is a big deal. If it's on the board, okay, if I've already got the truth, the recipe, the thing written out, okay, I don't have to focus on what to say. I can focus on how I say it and who I say it to, so I can leave them feeling better than before, right? Two examples in fitness. You can find every answer that you want to online. It's all there. Go ask AI about health and fitness and training. It'll literally write a workout plan for you, okay? But workout trainers, okay, personal trainers, private coaches, whatever else, they're not gonna go out of business anytime soon. And people charge $1,000 an hour for a coach, because they're gonna go to this person, and it's not about can this person just write a great program. It's that when the class is over, people leave and they feel better when they left than when they showed up, right? In church, everybody has access to the same Bible. The people that have the most success are the people that share the truth in a life-giving way, and they live authentic lives, right? They're authentic leaders, and they're leading by example, okay? And so that's the whole idea, is that we can make all this information available so that good men, good leaders, okay, they rise to the top. You can communicate with life to your team and not be so stressed out, not be overstretched, overworked, and all those things, okay? And so that's kind of the idea. A technique card, I don't have one pulled up on the thing. It'll take me a couple minutes to do it. Just as like a reference so you understand, we've done this. It will have like the technique, and then there's like a play button, right? So let's say there's technique, there's the goal, right? So a leg lace is, I like to talk about a leg lace because not everybody knows how to do one, and it's an easy way for us to learn. But like there's the main goal, right? And so it's the goal is to pin the hips, collect the knees, cross the ankles, and then arch to turn the guy, right? So that's the goal. That's the bullseye. That's the focus, the main objective. And then underneath that, there'll be a checklist, a recipe, if you will, of 5 to 7 things that make that technique really great, right? We've planted the flag and said, this is, it keeps on. There's more details, but here's a checklist of 5 to 7. Checklist Manifesto, great book. And then at the bottom, it'll have some fatal mistakes or really common mistakes in red. That's like, hey, don't do these things, right? So we say, here's the goal, okay? Here's the habits or the technique in itself. Here's the fatal mistakes or the things that you really want to avoid doing, okay? And then up at the top, there'll be a little link, a little play button where you can literally click that button and it shows the technique being taught or demonstrated or both, all right? And so it's really, really powerful thing, and we just literally blow it up and everybody can see it, and it completely hijacks the thing. And so now you can just let the kids do the work, man. You can, once you've given them a path forward, right, and you've shown them the roadmap, then you can, the ball's in their court. You can expect and ask them to do the work and start pounding the pavement themselves, right? There's no expectation that they're going to make you carry the team. Ultimately, what we need is for the athletes' parents to start putting the responsibility, and coaches to put responsibility on the athletes. If we empower them, then the parents can come alongside us, and we can all look at the athletes and ask them to do the work and be responsible and accountable for their success, which is something that we need in society. It's something that we need more in sports, and it's certainly something that we're capable of doing in terms of wrestling. Okay. Cool. Are you guys getting some value out of this? Is this good? This good? Yeah. There's a lot of stuff we can do. D, I saw your question up there. Some ideas on how we can leverage this with a team. Listen, dude, go get a TV. Go freaking get a TV. They're literally cheap. It's crazy how cheap a TV is. People think that we're bougie because there's a couple of TVs hanging in here, but they're so cheap. You go to Sam's Club, somebody will donate one to you. Go talk to a business. Like for $500, you can have a huge, awesome TV, and you can put like a little $150 like micro computer on it, and you have a crazy, crazy, crazy training tool in your room. Like, just do it. You can use a projector, but I think a TV's best because it's got way better contrast. It's going to show up. You can do so many things. It's not worth not having. Don't buy another singlet without having a TV hanging on the wall in your wrestling room with a computer attached to it. It's huge. Okay. So, if you're getting some value out of this, whatever, give me a thumbs up, man. Let me know. I can't see everybody. It's like I got everybody off the screen. Shoot me a thumbs up. Let me know that, hey, man, this is good. This is working for me. Okay, so call to action, right? I'll just kind of run through it. Like, if you like what you're hearing, okay, if you believe that every coach needs a coach, if you don't want to spend all the time that it takes doing this work on your own, okay, if you're like, hey, I jive with this, I know that I could go do this, but I would like to dedicate my time to something else instead of having to go learn it on my own, okay? I'd like to just be talking about implementing it instead of learning it for the first time. If you want to be able to go home at night and have some peace, if you don't want to have the struggles that I've had, if you struggle turning your brain off when you go home or being present with your family or whatever because you're thinking about this thing at work, okay? If you don't want to be like Coach Bill Clark at the wedding that was disengaged with everybody there or detached because he was thinking about this thing that he needed to deal with, like then if you want some help doing that, okay, I want you to text me right now. Shoot me a text and just say pro, all right? We use the word pro. So the number is 205-973-6952. You guys all opted in and have gotten some texts and stuff back and forth from us at my cell phone number, 205-973-6952. Text me the word pro. All right, here's what this looks like. The reason I use the word pro is not to be, hey, we're the pros, okay? Mike Tyson, okay? Mike Tyson's boxing coach. When Mike Tyson was getting ready to turn professional, okay, he was still an amateur, and he knew he was the best in the world. He was watching these other guys fight, and he was like, I can beat all of them, okay? And he was ready to go pro. He wanted to make some money. He was tired of like living like he was, and his coach, I'm going to mess up his name if I say it right now, but he said, being a professional is not about how much money you make. Being a professional is how much you care about the details of the thing that you do. Being a professional is not about how much money you make. It's about how much you care about the details of the thing that you do, okay? And so our vision for coaches is that we can reach and inspire, empower coaches to become professionals themselves, right? And so we've procured a lot of this stuff. We've found it. We've found it everywhere and whatever. But like, I'm not going to be able to go to Illinois and help every team there. I can't go to Georgia even and do it. I can't even do it locally, okay? But you've already got your athletes. They're a captive audience. And so what we figured out is that for us to have the greatest impact possible, okay, we could hoard all this and beat people and like, yeah, we're awesome, look at us. And we just really have taken a bigger view than that and said the best way for us to help everybody is to invest in leaders and help those leaders like come alongside them so that they can empower and reach and inspire and make change in their community, right? And so we're trying to do that everywhere that we can, okay? If you want to 2X like the things that you're doing, man, you can just keep, I do this all the time. I find myself picking up little nuggets here and there and everything And if you want to 2X what's going on, then you can just spend some more time and you can use some more effort and probably get it done. There's always going to be that temptation to give more time, more effort until you realize, hey, I've actually got to stop. Like there's no more time or effort to give. I'm losing the rhythm in my life and I don't have balance anymore that I really need and the people around me need, okay? And so there's a great book that I've been reading and it says that 10X is easier than 2X. And the idea is that if you want a 2X, time and effort will get it done. But if you want a 10X, there are very, very few ways to do that, okay? If you want to, dig a swimming pool, you start with a shovel and you're like, hey, this ain't gonna work. But if you get an excavator out there, you can make this thing happen, okay? And so another shovel or another person shoveling is not gonna get it done. You need a tractor, right? It's just, and then I wrote this down. I said, you need a tractor, you need an excavator, you need someone who builds, sells, and services that equipment and can help you learn how to implement it on the job moving forward. They can train you with this new piece of equipment and help you learn to implement it, okay? I believe that every coach needs a coach. I have coaches in every area of my life that I care about performing and executing and doing my best in. Like I don't rely on myself to do it. I go find somebody that's a professional and learn from them, okay? That's why I'm a book reader. I love it. You can consume 10 years of someone's life in 10 hours or less. It's really powerful, okay? And so just looking forward, what does this look like? Right now, we're running like 1 to 2 calls a week with people, and we have vision for 4 to 5 calls a week, okay? A call for coaches, a call for athletes, a call for parents, a devotional or something that's sharing the truth, and then filming our practice where you can literally see it being done, right? And we do this some right now, but we have vision for all this, and it's really not that much harder to do it. I'll be honest, where we're struggling right now is that we are overworked, underpaid. My staff, my team is stretched out, stretched thin, okay? We know we're not gonna stop doing this work, but the amount of work we do is really built on some of the financial constraints that are involved, okay? And so we've been talking to coaches and we've said, this is kind of what it looks like. So my coach, I'll share this. Stay with me here. Don't give me. I've got 2 minutes, and we'll wrap it up. Okay, I promise. Okay. So my coach, Mike Krausen, dude is awesome. Super. I mean, he called. It's $1,500 a month to be a part of his program, and I like to choke when he first told me that it's worth it. He's worth $3,500 a month. It's awesome that he charges $1,500 because like he gives me so much value. It's hard to even put in words some of the things that I've learned and how powerful it is, okay? When I talk to him, he was a wrestler. He's wrestled before. He understands what we're doing, what that's different. He sees the value of it in a team and an organization. And he said, you need to do this for $400 a month. He said, this is your price point. This is what you need to do. And I was like, man, there's no way. I can't, we can't do that. And he was like, okay, don't do it for that. I guess you could do it for this price. Like that, but that doesn't even make sense. He's like, honestly, it's not gonna make business sense because he understands like what's going on behind the scenes to make this a thing. And he understands the new category and all stuff. He's like, it needs to be $300. And I was like, man, there's no way we're gonna come in and do this for $199. And so we've been doing it we've got a lot of coaches that are in here and they're doing it for $199, okay? And like, there's some people that can't afford that, right? And if you know, again, on our side, I'm not offended that somebody doesn't value or understand it or they're not ready to spend that money on it, or maybe they value it, but their spouse doesn't, whatever the case is. I don't want to beat somebody up, I'm not even judging for that, okay? I'm just like, we're trying to make things work, okay? And so we're using a pay, what I call a pay what you can afford model, okay? And this is super counterculture. But I think it's a biblical principle, right? Tithing is based off of a 10% idea of whatever you bring in, okay? He talks about how there's a story in the Bible where one person gave very little and one person gave, a lot. But this person that gave a lot, it was actually like rich, and it was such a small portion of what they had. And this person who gave very little, it was literally everything that they had, right? Let's say it was they only had $5 and they gave $5 for the sake of it, okay? And so we're using a pay what you want model where it could be $100 or it can be $199 a month for a coach, right? And so we started out calling this kind of like volunteer, right? We have some that are doing this. And so we were saying, hey, this could be volunteer. This could be a small club, right? A small club, et cetera, okay? Maybe this is a college coach or a professional that's making a living doing this, okay? I don't know. I don't even care, right? If you're a high school coach and you're making a $2,500 stipend a year to coach wrestling, it doesn't make sense. It's hard to justify this, even if you believe in it. It's hard to justify this. So, man, jump up here and do this, okay? If you like what we're doing, I believe that in doing this, okay, again, super counterculture, and honestly, kind of a scary, business model, all right? But I believe that whatever you can afford or whatever you value, if you want to do this, we don't want to gatekeep it. I don't want to hold you back from that, right? If you're at this level, if you just started the club and you're like, man, I can afford $100. I know $100. I'd like to pay you $300, but I'm not there yet. We'll grow with you, right? Or if you know that you're paying this, but you're getting this, you're getting this kind of value, you're getting $400 value and you're paying $100, I believe that you'll get other coaches to come get plugged in too, right? You'll pass it, you'll pay it forward in another way. I really believe in that principle, and I know that the people who are attracted to what we're doing will also have those types of beliefs and do that. And so if that's something that you are into, okay, if you believe in what we're doing, if you like what you're hearing, there's 25 other things, that problems and solutions and whatever, okay, there's so much to it. But if you jive with it and you're interested, okay, and you're like, hey, let's freaking go, let's do this, okay, we can help you, like we've talked about helping you here, but man, we can do this much. We can save money that you're spending in your program right now. We can add value. I think we can 10x the value that you're getting we can 10x the value that you're getting out of going to a wrestling camp every summer, and we can do it for so much less money that you could get 10x the value, 10x the training, and buy a wrestling mat all in the same summer. That sounds too good to be true, but I believe that we can do that, okay? We can empower your athletes, your parents, everybody. We can help build culture, and we can have some fun together doing this thing and push it forward. And so if you jive with that, shoot me a text. Text us right now, our team, PRO, to 205-973-6952. Shoot us a text. If nothing else, just shoot us some feedback, man. Let us know what you thought. I'd love to connect with you guys individually, and our team will get connected and get you opted in and paid in and all that kind of stuff. We could talk about, if you are interested in more next steps or whatever, bigger things for your team and equipping everybody the way that we're doing it. There's a way to do it, but yeah, that kind of wraps up today, okay? We can't do any more of it on this call for sure. All right, I really mean it, and that I love and appreciate you guys for being a part of this. Thank you for just taking the steps. If you don't do anything else and you just got some value today and you use that to help somebody else, then it was a successful day and it was worth it on our end. But if you would like to be part of more things with me and MJ and the team, Nakaya, Mallory, and all the coaches that we have already plugged in our pro program, we would love to do that, okay? We've got other options and solutions for athletes. They're all there, individual athletes, to get plugged into our weekly athlete training call. If there's a kid on your team that you know is motivated and could use some help, right? And just that other 22 and helping come alongside what you guys are doing. All those things are there. We're going to slowly reach more and more and more, help more, do more, and make an impact, okay? So thank y'all for what you're doing. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to you somewhere soon, okay? Later, guys.